Move your little hobby farm, or I'll move it for you. That voice cut through the Montana morning like a blade wrapped in silk. The woman delivering those words stood beside her white Lexus, the driver door still open, engine still running, as if she expected this conversation to last no longer than it would take me to surrender. She wore a light blue suit tailored so precisely it might have been sewn directly onto her body. 4-inch heels stabbed into the mud of my driveway like she was planting flags of conquest. Behind her, 3 more SUVs idled in formation, a convoy of suburban entitlement waiting for their queen to clear the path. And behind me stood 480 acres of Montana wilderness that this woman had apparently been treating as her personal highway for the past 8 months. But here is what Darlene Ashworth did not know about me. I was not a farmer. I was not some retiree playing rancher. I was the man who had spent 28 years designing security gate systems for American embassies in the most dangerous corners of the world. And the gate I had finished installing the night before? She would never open it. Not with her lawyers. Not with her money. Not with her convoy of matching SUVs and neighborhood bullies. That gate was built to stop armored military vehicles in hostile zones. Her Lexus did not stand a chance. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back 8 months, to the moment this war truly began. The satellite phone rang at 3 in the morning, Kabul time. I was standing in front of a reinforced steel barrier at the American embassy, running final diagnostics on a gate system designed to stop a 15-ton vehicle. Protected diplomats from high-impact breaches was humming beneath my fingertips, responding to commands I had programmed over 6 months of meticulous work. Mr. Calloway, your contract has expired. Your flight back to the States leaves in 6 hours. 28 years. That is how long I had spent designing security systems for the most sensitive American installations on Earth. Military bases in Germany, consulates in Beirut, embassy compounds in Afghanistan and Iraq. My hands had drawn the blueprints for gates that protected thousands of lives, barriers that stopped attackers cold, systems that gave diplomats and soldiers precious seconds to respond to threats. Now I am 54 years old. My back ached from too many flights in cargo planes. My knees protested every staircase, and the only thing I wanted was silence. 2 weeks later, I found it. The for sale sign had been standing in front of that wooden gate for 3 years, according to the realtor. 480 acres of rolling Montana pasture, a 2-story farmhouse that needed significant work, and a private road that wound down to the shores of Thornton Lake. The previous owner had been a reclusive novelist who died without heirs. The bank had been trying to unload the property at a loss for years. Fair warning, the realtor said, as we walked the perimeter. Locals call this place cursed. The writer who lived here was a hermit, scared off every potential buyer with stories about the land being haunted. I looked out at the lake glittering in the afternoon sun, watched a hawk circle lazily overhead, listened to the absolute absence of sirens, chaos, and screaming. I have spent 28 years in places where people actively tried to kill me, I told her. A haunted farmhouse in Montana does not frighten me. I signed the papers that afternoon. What I did not know at the time was that my new property sat directly between Meadowcrest Heights, a development of 350 luxury homes, and the shores of Thornton Lake, where the HOA had built a private marina for its residents. And the only road to that marina? It ran straight through the middle of my ranch. For 12 years, they had been driving across this land like they owned it. The previous owner had been too isolated, too strange, too disconnected from the world to notice or care. But now the property had a new owner, one who noticed everything. I discovered this arrangement during my first week, before I had even finished patching the holes in the farmhouse roof. The sound of engines woke me on a Tuesday morning, and I stepped onto the porch with my coffee just in time to watch a convoy of 7 SUVs barrel through my rotting wooden gate like it was a suggestion rather than a boundary. Dust clouds rose behind them as they disappeared toward the lake. I stood there for 30 minutes, watching the road, waiting. When they returned, the lead vehicle stopped. The driver's door opened with the mechanical precision of someone accustomed to making entrances, and out stepped a woman who moved like she had already purchased everything within eyesight. Light blue suit, platinum blonde hair lacquered into a helmet that would survive a hurricane, eyes that swept over me like I was inventory to be assessed and dismissed. "You are the one who bought this place?" "I am." Darlene Ashworth, president of the Meadowcrest Heights Homeowners Association, 12 years running. She did not offer her hand. "You need to know some rules." I took a slow sip of my coffee. "I am not part of your HOA. Your ranch sits within our zone of influence. We have the right to cross this property to access community infrastructure, specifically the Thornton Lake Marina. Do you have documentation proving that right of access?" Silence. 1 second. 2 seconds. Her eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "We have been using this road for 12 years. That is not an answer to my question." The pleasant mask slipped, just for a moment. I had seen that expression before, in negotiations with warlords and corrupt officials. The look of someone who was not accustomed to hearing the word no and did not intend to start now. "Mr. Calloway." Her voice dropped, honey laced with something bitter. "You are new here. You do not understand how things work. Let me explain simply. 350 families in my development. Each family pays $2,400 in HOA fees annually. That is $840,000, and I decide how every penny gets spent." She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume. Something expensive and aggressive. "You think one man alone on a piece of land nobody wants can stand against that kind of resources?" I said nothing, just watched her. "Sweetie, I have buried 3 property owners who tried to block this road. You will be the 4th, or you will be smart." She turned on those 4-inch heels and walked back to her Lexus, each step driving into the mud like a period at the end of a sentence. The convoy departed in a cloud of dust and entitlement. I stood on my porch, coffee growing cold in my hand, and made a decision. Whatever game Darlene Ashworth thought she was playing, she had never played it against someone like me. The pattern established itself with military precision over the following weeks. Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Those were the days the HOA convoy would pass through my property. 5 to 8 vehicles each time. Sometimes more when they were hosting events at the marina. During week 2, I installed a new wooden gate with a proper lock. The next morning, I found the lock cut clean through, the gate hanging open. During week 3, I mounted cameras. The convoy drove past them without slowing, and Darlene herself waved at the lens with a smile that said she knew exactly what I was doing and found it amusing. During week 4, I sent a formal letter via certified mail demanding they cease trespassing on my property. The response came from the HOA's legal team. A threatening letter accusing me of obstructing access to community infrastructure and promising legal action if I persisted. But the letters were only the beginning. The harassment escalated in ways designed to break a man's spirit without leaving fingerprints. One Friday night, someone scattered roofing nails across my driveway. It took me 3 hours to clear them all. Monday morning, I found my mailbox demolished. not just knocked over, destroyed. Wednesday afternoon, the county sheriff called to inform me that an anonymous complaint had been filed claiming I was stockpiling weapons on my property. He had to investigate, even though he sounded embarrassed about it. I had lived through actual combat zones. I recognized the difference between random harassment and a coordinated campaign. This was tactical, designed to exhaust, to isolate, to make the target feel like resistance was futile. What Darlene Ashworth did not understand was that I had spent nearly 3 decades studying exactly these kinds of operations, and I knew how to fight back. The laptop I opened that night was the same one I had used to design security protocols for the Pentagon. Now I used it to design a surveillance network for my own property. 6 trail cameras positioned at strategic choke points, motion sensors along the main road, long-range audio recording equipment capable of capturing conversations from 50 yards away. The same technology I had deployed to protect ambassadors now protected 480 acres of Montana ranch land. Here is something most people do not know. Trail cameras with passive infrared sensors can detect body heat from 40 feet away. They run on lithium batteries for 6 months. They are weatherproof, and the video uploads automatically to encrypted cloud storage. Embassy-grade surveillance, available at any sporting goods store for $150. After 2 weeks, I had 127 video clips. Each one documented a separate trespassing incident. License plates, faces, timestamps accurate to the second. But the footage that made my blood run cold was not recorded during daylight hours. Camera 4 captured it at 2:17 a.m. on a Thursday night. A white van with no plates pulled onto my property and stopped in the middle of the main road. 2 men climbed out carrying surveying equipment. They drove stakes into the ground, stretched measuring tape between them, and documented every dimension of my land with professional precision. And supervising the entire operation, illuminated briefly by one of the men's flashlights, was Darlene Ashworth. She wore a black jacket instead of her signature blue suit, and she studied a tablet displaying what looked like architectural plans. They were surveying my property at 2 a.m, without my knowledge or permission. This was not about a road to the marina. This was something much larger. I spent the next 3 days at the Madison County Records Office, pulling every document I could find. Property deeds, HOA meeting minutes, building permit applications, zoning variance requests. All of it is public record if you knew where to look and had the patience to dig. The pieces came together like a puzzle designed by someone who never expected anyone to examine it closely. In 2019, the Meadowcrest Heights HOA had filed an application to expand the Thornton Lake Marina from 30 boat slips to 150. The project would have transformed the quiet lakeside into a full commercial operation with rental facilities, a restaurant, and an event center. The application was denied. The reason? Lack of legal road access. The only route to the proposed development site crossed private property, and no easement existed. 2 weeks after I purchased my ranch, Darlene filed a new application. This time, she included documentation claiming the HOA possessed a historical easement dating back to 1987, granting perpetual right-of-way across my land. I found that easement document in the county files, examined it carefully, and felt the hair rise on the back of my neck. The signature at the bottom belonged to the previous property owner, the reclusive novelist. According to county death records, that man died in 1985, 2 years before he supposedly signed away road access rights. The notary stamp belonged to a public official who retired in 1982, 5 years before the document was allegedly created. This was not just trespassing. This was document forgery, a federal crime. But I needed more. I needed to understand the full scope of what I was dealing with. That night, my satellite phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost ignored it. Something made me answer. "Mr. Calloway, my name is Hollister Birch. I was married to Darlene for 11 years. I think we need to talk." We met at a bar 40 miles outside of town, far from anyone who might recognize either of us. Hollister Birch was 61 years old, with the weathered face of a man carrying burdens too heavy for his frame. He had served as the HOA's chief accountant for 8 years, until Darlene divorced him and orchestrated his removal from the neighborhood. He brought a shoebox full of receipts, invoices, and printed emails. "She does not just want the road through your property." He slid the box across the table. "She wants the whole 480 acres. Inside the box, I found the blueprints for something called the Thornton Lakeside Resort, a $45 million development featuring a boutique hotel, a miniature golf course, an expanded marina with 200 boat slips, and luxury vacation rentals. All of it planned for land that currently belonged to me." "She already has investors lined up," Hollister continued. "Private equity group out of Denver. They have been waiting 3 years for her to secure the property rights." "And how exactly does she plan to acquire my land?" Hollister pushed a folder toward me. Inside were documents detailing a strategy so methodical it might have been designed by a military tactician. Step 1. Establish a fraudulent historical easement to create the appearance of legal right-of-way. Step 2. File continuous code violation complaints against the property owner, dragging them into expensive legal battles. Step 3. When the owner is financially exhausted, make a lowball purchase offer disguised as a friendly gesture. Step 4. If the owner refuses, use the fraudulent easement to claim the property through adverse possession, then counter-sue for obstruction of access rights. "She has done this to 4 property owners before you," Hollister said. "All of them sold at 30% of market value after 2 years of fighting. None of them had the resources to challenge her legal team." I looked at the stack of invoices. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees, all paid from HOA funds. 350 families had been unknowingly financing Darlene's personal land acquisition scheme for nearly a decade. "Why are you telling me this?" Hollister stared into his whiskey. When he looked up, there was something broken in his eyes. "Because she used HOA money to pay those lawyers. Money from families who trusted her. And nobody knows." He took a breath. "And because you are the first person who did not run after the first month." He slid one final document across the table. An email from Darlene to her investors, dated 3 weeks earlier. "Calloway will be gone by the end of the year. I am preparing the litigation package now. When he goes bankrupt from legal fees, we purchase the property at foreclosure prices. Trust me, I have never lost." I folded the email and placed it in my pocket. She has never faced someone who designed security systems for embassies. That night, I made 3 phone calls. The first was Winslow Garrett, 58 years old, a property rights attorney I had worked with during a land dispute involving a military base in Germany. He specialized in exactly the kind of case I was building. "Shepard, document forgery involving federal property rights? This is the case I have been waiting for my entire career." The second call went to Cordelia Bryn, a 44-year-old forensic document analyst. She had spent a decade with the FBI's Document Examination Laboratory before opening her own consulting firm. A signature from a dead man and a notary stamp from someone who retired 5 years earlier? Give me 72 hours. I will prove every layer of that forgery. The third call was to Sheriff Everett Dane, the Madison County law enforcement chief. We had shared beers twice since I moved to Montana, and I had sensed in him a man who suspected something was wrong but lacked the evidence to act. Shepard, I have had concerns about Darlene Ashworth for years, but nobody has ever been willing to come forward. If you have solid proof, I will back you up. But evidence and lawyers were not enough. Darlene had been playing this game for 12 years. She knew how to drag out litigation until opponents surrendered from sheer exhaustion. I needed something she could not ignore, something that would force her to make a mistake. I needed a gate. Not a wooden gate she could cut through. Not a chain-link fence her people could dismantle. I needed the kind of barrier I had spent 3 decades perfecting. The technology that protected American diplomats from hostile vehicle attacks and military bases from terrorist attacks. For the first time in my career, I was building it for myself. I spent 3 weeks on the design. Sleep became optional. Meals became interruptions. Every hour not dedicated to legal strategy went into engineering the most sophisticated private security gate system ever installed on a Montana ranch. I did not choose bollards. Too simple. Too predictable. Darlene had already researched bollard-related litigation and knew the legal vulnerabilities. What I designed was something she had never encountered. I called it the Labyrinth Gate. Layer 1 was an enhanced cattle guard. Standard cattle guards use horizontal bars spaced to prevent livestock from crossing. Mine used pivot bars that rotated on central axes. A vehicle traveling under 5 miles per hour would pass over them smoothly. A vehicle traveling over 15 miles per hour would trigger violent oscillations that would destroy the suspension system. Layer 2 consisted of parallel gates, 2 barriers separated by 30 feet of enclosed space. The first gate opens, the vehicle enters, the first gate closes. Only then does the second gate open. An airlock system that forces every vehicle to stop completely between the 2 barriers. No way to build momentum. No way to ram through. Layer 3 was reinforced hydraulic bollards embedded beneath the road surface. Heavy steel cylinders capable of stopping a tank. Fully permitted as a passive defensive barrier. The warning system was equally comprehensive. Signs posted at 100 yards, 50 yards, and directly at the gate. LED lights flashing yellow around the clock. Motion-activated speakers delivering recorded warnings in clear English. Everything is documented. Everything is broadcast. No one could claim ignorance. Montana Code 45-6-203 permits property owners to use reasonable force to protect their land, including physical barriers. The conditions are simple: clear signage, no lethal intent, and comprehensive documentation. My gate met every requirement. The installation crew arrived from Bozeman on a Tuesday morning. 14 hours of continuous work. Concrete poured with the precision of military engineering. Steel welded by technicians who usually worked on industrial security systems. When the sun rose on Wednesday, the gate stood complete. It was not beautiful. Beauty was not the point. It was designed to do one thing: stop any vehicle that tried to force its way through, and record every second of the attempt. The first test came on Thursday morning. Standard HOA convoy day. I sat on my porch with coffee in hand, laptop open to display feeds from 8 different cameras. The morning air smelled like pine and possibility. At 8:15 a.m., the convoy appeared on the main road, 6 SUVs in formation, the white Lexus leading as always. They stopped at the first sign. I watched through the camera as Darlene stepped out, phone pressed to her ear, squinting at the new warning posted there. Private property, security measures in effect. She spoke into the phone, nodded, climbed back into her vehicle. The convoy continued. Second sign. No stop this time. Third sign, directly at the gate. Yellow LEDs pulsing. Speakers activate automatically. Warning. Private property. Authorized vehicles only. Proceed at your own risk. Darlene exited her Lexus again and stood before the parallel gate system, her eyes scanning the steel and concrete like she was trying to decode an unfamiliar language. Then she laughed. Not a joyful sound. The laugh of someone accepting a challenge they fully intended to win. She walked back to her vehicle and retrieved a megaphone. "Mr. Calloway, I know you are watching. This pile of scrap metal changes nothing. I have 12 years of experience and $840,000 annually. What do you have? A rotting farmhouse and delusions." She gestured for the convoy to turn around. But before climbing back into her Lexus, she walked directly to the nearest camera and spoke loudly enough for the audio system to capture every word. "You have 72 hours to remove this. After that, my lawyers will do it, along with your bank account." I activated the intercom system. "Mrs. Ashworth, this installation is entirely legal and properly permitted. I suggest you use County Road 7 to access the lake. It adds only 8 minutes to your drive." Silence through the speaker. Then the megaphone crackled again. 8 minutes? 350 families lose 8 minutes every day because of one selfish man? You will regret this. The convoy departed in a storm of dust and wounded pride. I took a sip of my coffee. The war had officially begun. 72 hours later, a 3-inch stack of legal documents arrived via certified mail. The HOA's attorneys had been busy. Claim 1. Violation of historical right-of-way access, citing the fraudulent 1987 easement. Claim 2. Creation of a public safety hazard, alleging the gate system posed risk of injury. Claim 3. Economic damages, claiming property values throughout Meadowcrest Heights had declined due to restricted lake access. Demand. Remove the gate within 14 days or face a $500,000 lawsuit. Winslow Garrett reviewed the filing over speakerphone, and I could hear him laughing from 3 states away. "Shepard, this lawsuit was written by someone who never intended to win. It is designed to intimidate you into surrendering." "How can you tell?" "Because they cite the 1987 easement as their primary legal foundation. The same document we have already proven is forged. They are betting you do not have the evidence to fight back." We did not play defense. We attacked. Filing 1. Criminal trespassing complaint, documenting 127 separate incidents captured on video. Filing 2. Report of document forgery submitted to the County District Attorney's Office, including Cordelia Brin's forensic analysis. Filing 3. Wire fraud complaint submitted to the FBI, noting that Darlene had transmitted fraudulent documents via Federal Electronic Communications. Filing 4. Request for investigation into misappropriation of HOA funds, supported by Hollister Birch's financial records. Every filing included irrefutable evidence, video recordings, document analysis, email trails, financial records. Cordelia's forensic report was particularly devastating. The 1987 easement used Arial font, which was not widely available until 1992. The printing showed laser toner characteristics that did not exist in small office equipment until the mid-1990s. The notary stamp included a barcode, and Montana did not implement barcode systems for notary seals until 2003. The document had been created sometime between 2019 and 2020, exactly when Darlene needed it for her resort development project. But the investigation revealed something even more disturbing. Darlene had not forged just one document. She had fabricated easement records for 4 different properties over the past 8 years. My ranch was simply the latest target in a systematic campaign of land acquisition through fraud. The community began to fracture. 1 week after I filed my countersuit, Darlene organized an emergency meeting at the Meadowcrest Heights Community Center. 200 residents attended. The announced topic: the threat from an extremist landowner. I was not invited, but Hollister attended with a recording device. Darlene's speech painted me as a dangerous recluse who had installed military-grade weapons on his property to threaten innocent families. She proposed that every household contribute $500 to a legal war chest that would fund litigation until I was forced to sell and leave. The applause started strong but faded quickly. From the back of the room, a woman's voice cut through the tension. "Ms. Ashworth, my name is Prudence Holloway. I have lived in this community for 15 years. I have a question. Can you show us the original easement document?" The room went quiet. "The easement is part of ongoing litigation," Darlene replied, her smile tightening. "But surely you have a copy. For 12 years you have told us we have the right to use that road. You must have documentation." Silence stretched like a wire pulled too tight. Prudence Holloway was 67 years old, a retired history teacher who had spent decades teaching students how to verify primary sources. After hearing about my lawsuit, she had conducted her own research at the county records office. I visited the county archives myself. Her voice was clear and steady in the hushed room. "The 1987 easement does not exist in the original property records. The only version on file is a document the HOA submitted in 2019. Can you explain that discrepancy?" Darlene's composure cracked. "This is not the time to question leadership decisions. This is exactly the time." A man stood up. Thatcher Monroe, owner of a local construction company. Someone who had paid HOA dues faithfully for 9 years. "I want to know where my money has been going." The meeting collapsed into chaos. Accusations flew, demands for financial audits, calls for Darlene's resignation. She had spent 12 years building a kingdom of intimidation, and in one evening, the foundations began to crumble. But Darlene Ashworth did not surrender easily. Within 48 hours of the disastrous community meeting, she launched her most desperate counterattack yet: a media campaign. The headline in the Madison Valley Tribune read, "Local rancher blocks community lake access. Families suffer." The article, written by a reporter named Felicity Crane, presented Darlene's version of events without any attempt at balance. No call to me for comment. No verification of claims. Pure propaganda disguised as journalism. The story went viral within local social media circles. Comment sections exploded with arguments between residents who believed Darlene and those who sensed something was wrong. My response was not what she expected. Instead of issuing public statements or engaging in online battles, I invited Felicity Crane to my ranch. "You want the full story? I will show you everything." I opened my laptop and walked her through the evidence. 127 videos of trespassing. The forged easement with Cordelia's forensic analysis. Darlene's emails about the resort development. Hollister's records of misappropriated HOA funds. Felicity Crane sat in stunned silence for 20 minutes. "Why did you not release this publicly?" "Because I wanted her to dig herself deeper before I buried her." 3 days later, Felicity published a follow-up article. The headline, "HOA President Under Investigation for Document Forgery." Darlene called her within an hour of publication. Montana is a one-party consent state for recordings, and Felicity recorded every word. "You snake. I gave you exclusive access and you betrayed me like this?" Felicity's response was calm. "You gave me half the truth. I found the other half myself. You do not understand who you are dealing with. I will destroy your career. You just threatened a journalist on a recorded line." The call ended with a click, but the exposure only made Darlene more dangerous. Cornered animals always fight hardest. That Saturday night at 9 p.m., she went live on Facebook. "Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., we will exercise our rights. 350 families, one goal. We are going to remove the illegal barriers that one selfish man has installed on our community's road. Bring tools, bring cameras. We will show the world what community solidarity looks like." The video accumulated 2,000 views within 2 hours. I called Sheriff Everett Dane immediately. "She is organizing a mob to destroy my property. I need support." "Shepard, I cannot deploy deputies based on a Facebook video. What if I have federal involvement?" Silence on the line. "Federal? Wire fraud, mail fraud, document forgery involving federal property rights. Special Agent Marlo Vance from the Helena Field Office opened a case 2 weeks ago. She has been waiting for Darlene to incriminate herself further." The sheriff exhaled slowly. "You really did design security for embassies, did you not? And military bases and consulates. I know how to build a case, Everett." That night, I ran final checks on every system. Cattle guard, armed. Parallel gates, synchronized. Spike strips, standby mode, manual activation only. 8 cameras. Recording to encrypted cloud storage. Warning systems, active and operational. Direct line to Sheriff Dane, connected. Special Agent Vance. On standby 15 miles away. 8 months of preparation. 127 documented violations. Tens of thousands of dollars in legal expenses. Tomorrow morning, it would all come down to one confrontation. I sat on my porch as darkness settled over the lake, watching the stars emerge over Montana, and I waited for dawn. Sunday morning arrived with the kind of crystalline clarity that only precedes a storm. The air was cold and sharp, carrying the scent of pine and the promise of consequences long overdue. I took my position on the porch at 7:30 a.m., coffee steaming in one hand, laptop open on the table beside me. 8 camera feeds displayed the main road leading onto my property, each angle covering a different segment of the approach. At 7:52 a.m., the convoy appeared. Not 6 vehicles this time. 23. SUVs, pickup trucks, sedans. A column of suburban determination, stretching 200 yards down the county road, like an invading army mustering for assault. Leading the formation, as always, was the white Lexus. They stopped at the first warning sign. Through the telephoto lens of camera 2, I watched Darlene step out, megaphone in one hand, smartphone in the other. She was broadcasting live again, narrating her own heroic stand against the villain she had invented. "This is the day we reclaim what belongs to us. 350 families, one voice, one purpose." Cheers erupted from the vehicles behind her. Horns honked in solidarity. Someone had brought a handmade sign reading, "Community Rights Matter." The convoy lurched forward. Second sign. No hesitation. Third sign, directly at the gate. Yellow LEDs pulsing their warnings. Speakers crackling to life. "Warning, private property. Authorized vehicles only. Proceed at own risk." Darlene positioned herself in front of the parallel gate system, turning her phone camera toward the gathered residents behind her. "Look at this. Look at what one selfish man has done to keep families from enjoying their own lake. while he sits in that falling down house watching us suffer. She pivoted toward a red pickup truck near the front of the convoy. Steel reinforcement bars had been welded to its front bumper, a battering ram disguised as a work vehicle. "Preston, take it down. Clear the path." Preston Whitmore, 43 years old, owner of a landscaping company that relied heavily on HOA contracts, revved his engine in response. The truck lurched forward, accelerating toward the gate, clearly expecting the barrier to be flimsy wood or chain link. I did not move a finger. I simply watched the monitor. He ignored the flashing red warning lights. He ignored the stop signs. He believed his reinforced bumper could push through anything. He was wrong. My gate system relied on hydraulic steel bollards, solid cylinders of reinforced concrete and steel rooted 6 feet into the ground. When active, they are as immovable as a mountain. Preston's truck hit the bollards at 25 miles per hour. There was no explosion, just the sickening crunch of metal meeting an object that refused to yield. The truck stopped instantly, but momentum kept the chassis moving. The front suspension shattered with a loud snap. The radiator imploded, sending a geyser of steam hissing into the cold morning air. The truck sat motionless, crumpled against the steel pillars like a crushed soda can. Preston sat behind the wheel, hands frozen on the steering column, face pale with shock but unharmed. He had tried to break down a fortress with a pickup truck. Behind him, the convoy had stopped cold. 22 vehicles suddenly uncertain whether to advance or retreat. Darlene was still broadcasting. "He attacked us. This is assault. He deliberately. This is evidence of." Her words tangled together as reality failed to match her narrative. Then the sirens began. 3 county sheriff vehicles emerged from County Road 7, lights flashing, moving with coordinated precision. Sheriff Dane led the formation, 2 deputies flanking his cruiser. And behind them, 2 unmarked black sedans. Federal plates, FBI. Darlene spotted the law enforcement convoy, and her expression shifted from outrage to something approaching relief. She believed reinforcements had arrived for her cause. "Sheriff Dane, finally, arrest this man. He attacked our community. You saw what he did." Sheriff Dane exited his vehicle without acknowledging me. His attention focused entirely on the woman in the light blue suit. "Darlene Ashworth, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." The color drained from her face like water from a broken vessel. "What are you talking about? I am the victim here." Special Agent Marlo Vance stepped forward, credentials displayed. 47 years old, 15 years with the Bureau's white-collar crime division, and absolutely no patience for theatrical protests. "You are under arrest for document forgery, wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy to commit criminal trespass, and misappropriation of fiduciary funds. These are federal charges." Darlene's smartphone was still recording when the handcuffs closed around her wrists. 2,847 people watched the live stream. The comment section erupted. "Wait, is she getting arrested? What did she actually do? This is the greatest thing I have ever seen." Her phone fell into the Montana dust, camera still running, broadcasting the image of FBI agents escorting the 12-year HOA president toward a federal vehicle. Preston Whitmore was extracted from his disabled truck and arrested for conspiracy to commit vandalism and destruction of property. His landscaping company would lose its HOA contracts by the end of the week. The remaining 21 vehicles sat paralyzed, their occupants witnessing the complete collapse of the authority structure that had governed their lives for over a decade. Sheriff Dane approached my porch once the situation was contained. "That was quite a show, Shepard," I gestured toward the crowd of confused residents still gathered around the disabled vehicles. They deserve to know the truth. I activated the property's public address system. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Shepard Calloway. I understand you have been told I am the villain in this story. I would like to show you some things. The large LED display screen I had installed the previous week flickered to life. First image, the original county property records from 1987. No easement existed. Second image, the forged document Darlene had filed in 2019, with Cordelia Brin's forensic analysis highlighting the anachronistic font, printing technology, and notary stamps. Third image, Darlene's emails to investors outlining the $45 million resort development planned for my property. Fourth image, HOA financial records showing $340,000 in legal fees paid over 5 years with no corresponding invoices or documentation. Silence settled over the crowd like the first snow of winter. Prudence Holloway, the retired history teacher who had asked the right questions at the community meeting, walked toward my porch. Mr. Calloway, I owe you an apology. We did not know. You do not owe me anything. You were the one brave enough to ask questions when everyone else stayed silent. The awakening spread through the crowd like ripples across still water. 350 families realized they had been deceived for 12 years. $840,000 annually. Over $10 million in a decade. Where had it gone? The answers would emerge over the following months as federal investigators expanded their inquiry. If you are still here at this point, you have walked with me through 8 months of battle. From a rotting wooden gate to embassy-grade security systems. From anonymous harassment to federal indictments. Thank you for staying. The story is nearly finished, but the best part still remains. 3 months after the arrest, Darlene Ashworth accepted a plea agreement. 5 federal charges. 6 years in federal prison. $2.1 million in restitution. Preston Whitmore received 18 months of probation for his role in the conspiracy. His truck remained on my property for 2 weeks before a flatbed finally hauled it away, a monument to poor decisions and misplaced loyalty. The class action lawsuit united 287 Meadowcrest Heights families against their former leadership. The settlement totaled $4.2 million. Each family received approximately $14,000, plus the satisfaction of finally understanding where their money had gone. My own settlement with the newly reorganized HOA included an $8,000 annual payment for legal easement access across my property. A 30-year contract. Fair compensation that should have been negotiated honestly from the beginning. Additionally, I received $180,000 in damages for 8 months of coordinated harassment. The gate still stands, but it no longer serves as a barrier against invasion. The parallel system now includes a dedicated lane for Meadowcrest Heights residents, accessible via key cards distributed to those who sign agreements, acknowledging property rights and access protocols. The ranch itself has been transformed. Settlement funds covered a complete renovation of the farmhouse. New roof, restored hardwood floors, a wraparound porch facing the lake where I spend most evenings now. The reclusive novelist who lived here before would probably approve. The community has changed as well. Prudence Holloway won the special election for HOA president, running on a platform of transparency and cooperation with rural neighbors. The Thornton Lake Community Partnership now organizes programs connecting suburban residents with agricultural heritage and environmental conservation. This past summer, 47 young people from Meadowcrest Heights learned to ride horses on my ranch. Their parents stood along the fence line, watching their children discover something real and permanent in a world full of manufactured experiences. Last week, Sheriff Dane stopped by for our regular evening conversation. We sat on the porch watching the sun descend behind the mountains, cold beers in hand, the lake turning gold and crimson below us. "Shepard, I have been curious about something. With your experience, you could have done anything. Consulted for security firms, worked government contracts. Why did you choose to fight a battle with an HOA president in rural Montana?" I watched the light fade across the water. For 28 years, I protected other people, built gates to stop heavy breaches, designed systems that saved lives I will never know. But I never had anywhere that belonged to me. I took a drink. Darlene looked at me and saw a lonely man who bought land nobody wanted. She did not understand that I chose this place, that after almost 3 decades of protecting things for other people, I finally had something worth protecting for myself. And the gate? The gate was just a tool. What really stopped her was documentation. 127 videos, 47 documents, thousands of pages of evidence. Dane laughed quietly. "You know what is funny? She could have won if she had simply asked permission to use the road from the beginning. A reasonable negotiation. A fair easement agreement. None of this had to happen." True, but people like her do not ask. They take. And people like you? I looked at the gate standing silent in the gathering darkness. Steel and concrete and 28 years of engineering knowledge, protecting 480 acres of Montana wilderness. People like me build things they cannot break. The lake reflected the last light of day, and somewhere in the distance, a hawk called out across the valley. 8 months ago, I came to Montana looking for silence. What I found was a war I never expected, and a home worth defending. The novelist who lived here before me wrote stories about lonely people searching for meaning in empty places. I never read his books, but I think I understand what he was trying to say. Some places choose you as much as you choose them, and some battles find you whether you go looking for them or not. Darlene Ashworth sent me a letter from federal prison last month. Handwritten. 3 pages of justification and self-pity and something that might have been an apology buried beneath layers of deflection. I read it once, then filed it away with the rest of the case documentation. Forgiveness is a process, not a transaction. It happens on its own schedule or not at all. What matters is that the gate still stands. The ranch is finally the home I spent 28 years dreaming about. And 350 families now understand that authority without accountability is just tyranny wearing a pleasant mask. If this story resonated with you, hit the like button to spread the word. If you want to hear more stories about ordinary people standing against extraordinary corruption, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support this work directly, the thanks button below this video is the best way to help these stories reach more people. I have one final question for you. Have you ever faced someone who believed they were above the law? Someone who used power and position to take what did not belong to them? What did you do? What would you do differently? Leave your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if you are currently in a situation like mine, remember this. Documentation defeats deception. Patience defeats arrogance. And ordinary people, armed with evidence and determination, can defeat any corrupt system. Every single time.
Just sharing some good energy today. Like the video and subscribe to Red Stories.